In the silent void of deep space, Erebus 1 cut through the darkness like a scalpel. The ship, humanity's first manned deep space exploration vessel, was on the edge of the known universe, where light from distant stars barely reached. Captain Jenna Sorensen stood at the bridge, her sharp green eyes fixed on the swirling mass ahead, a gravitational anomaly that defied explanation. Status? Jenna's voice was calm, but her fingers drummed against the armrest of her chair. Anomaly readings are off the charts, replied Lieutenant Raj Patel, the ship's engineer. He frowned at the data scrolling across his console. It's like a star collapsed, but the energy signature is contained. No black hole, no debris. Contained by what? Jenna pressed. Raj shook his head. No clue. It's unnatural. Before Jenna could respond, a crackling voice erupted over the ship's comms, breaking through the static with unsettling clarity. Welcome to my domain. The bridge crew froze. The voice was male, smooth yet cold, as though it lacked the warmth of a living being. Let's play a game. Source? Jenna barked. Pinpointing. Communications Officer Lin Zhou's fingers danced over her controls. It's coming from the anomaly itself. A central point. It's a structure, Captain. Not natural. Jenna's heart sank. A structure meant intelligence. Intelligence meant danger. Helm, hold position, she ordered. We're not taking any risks. But before the ship could stabilize, an unseen force seized it. Alarms blared, and the hull creaked as if gripped by an immense pressure. Captain, shouted Raj. We're being pulled in gravity well, but it's artificial. I can't break free. Shut down the engines. Let it pull us. We don't fight something we don't understand. Jenna's orders were sharp, steady. Panic wouldn't help now. Through the viewport, the anomaly expanded into a swirling vortex of black and blue, laced with electric currents. At its center loomed a massive metallic structure, its surface shifting like liquid metal. The ship was dragged into its maw, swallowed whole. When the movement ceased, the ship was encased in darkness. Systems flickered back to life, but the Erebus 1 was no longer in open space. Outside, an impossible labyrinth stretched in every direction, a maze of glowing corridors, towering walls, and alien glyphs that pulsed with an unnatural light. Captain, Lin whispered, her voice trembling, we're inside it. The lights on the bridge dimmed. A shape materialized before them, as though stepping out of the shadows themselves. He looked human tall, with sharp features and a calm demeanor. His clothes were anachronistic, a patchwork of styles from across history. His eyes, however, betrayed him. They glowed faintly, as if powered by some internal energy. Greetings, travelers, the figure said, his voice now smooth and conversational, though it still carried an unsettling edge. Jenna rose from her chair, keeping her gaze locked on him. Who are you? What do you want? The man tilted his head, almost amused. Names are unnecessary. But for simplicity, you may call me host. I have waited a long time for someone to stumble into my domain. It's quite lonely out here. We didn't come to play games, Jenna shot back, her voice steady. Release us, and we'll leave you in peace. Ah, but you did come to play, host said, a faint smile curving his lips. The moment your kind stepped into the anomaly, the game began. Your punch against my world's boundaries was your opening move. He took a step forward. So now, it's my turn. Let's play a game. A simple one, to begin. Jenna frowned. A game of what? You humans love your metaphors, host said, gesturing vaguely. Let's say, this is a test. A test of strength. Strike me. The demand caught everyone off guard. Jenna glanced at Raj, then back at the figure. What? Strike me, host repeated. Hit me. It's the only way to progress. Otherwise, you and your crew will remain trapped in my domain forever. Jenna clenched her fists. She hated giving in to demands without understanding the stakes, but her options were limited. If this host had control over the cube, defying him might endanger her crew. Steeling herself, she approached. Her eyes narrowed as she studied him. No visible weapons, no defenses, just a man standing motionless. "This is ridiculous," she muttered. Then, with a sharp motion, she drove her fist into his chest. It connected with a dull thud. His body was solid, yet oddly unyielding, like striking an unmovable wall. Jenna withdrew her hand, her knuckles aching slightly. Host didn't flinch. His smile widened, and his voice dropped to a menacing whisper. "Now it's my turn." Before Jenna could react, the entire ship lurched violently. The lights dimmed to crimson as alarms blared. Host raised his hand, and the crew vanished in flashes of light, scattered to unknown parts of the cube. Jenna's vision blurred, her last sight being Host's glowing eyes, burning with cruel amusement. "Let's see how you play when the rules are mine," he said, his voice echoing into her subconscious as she fell into darkness. When Jenna Sorensen regained consciousness, her first thought was of her crew. Her second was of the void-like silence surrounding her. She sat up, groaning as she rubbed her head, and her surroundings came into focus. She was no longer on the Erebus One. The room was vast yet claustrophobic, its walls a reflective, liquid-like material that pulsed with an unnatural light. Glyphs floated mid-air, shifting and dissolving as if alive. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the soft hum of the cube's energy. A familiar voice filled the room, echoing from no discernible source. "Ah, Captain Sorensen. Welcome to your first trial." Jenna spun around, fists clenched. "Where's my crew? What have you done to them?" Host's image materialized, a holographic projection shimmering with static. His calm, unreadable face only fueled her anger. "They are safe. For now. Scattered throughout my domain, each facing their own trials." His voice dripped with amusement. "To succeed, they must face themselves. As for you, Captain, your test begins now." The floor beneath Jenna rippled, and the room transformed. The liquid-like walls stretched and twisted, morphing into towering trees with leaves that shimmered like data streams. Jenna found herself standing in an alien forest, where the ground pulsed faintly beneath her boots. A blade materialized in her hand, crude and jagged, like a relic from a forgotten war. "Your trial is simple," Host said, his voice blending with the rustling leaves. "Survive. But be warned, this is not a battle of brute strength. What hunts you will grow stronger with every ounce of fear you feed it. Good luck." A low growl echoed through the forest. Jenna's grip on the blade tightened as she scanned her surroundings. From the shadows emerged a beast wolf-like but distorted, its body flickering like corrupted code. Its eyes glowed with the same energy as the cube. The creature lunged, and Jenna barely dodged, rolling to the side. She swung the blade, but it passed harmlessly through the beast, leaving it unfazed. Panic bubbled in her chest as she scrambled backward. The creature grew larger, its teeth elongating, its muscles bulging. "Fear fuels it," Host's voice reminded her. "Do not let it control you." Jenna forced herself to breathe deeply, steadying her racing heart. She studied the creature, noticing its form flicker when it attacked. Instead of fighting it head-on, she moved with calculated precision, using its predictable lunges to evade and maneuver. The beast's form began to shrink as her fear ebbed, and with one decisive strike, she drove her blade into its core. The creature dissolved into a shower of glowing particles, leaving the forest eerily silent. Meanwhile, in Raj's chamber, Raj Patel gasped as the air thinned around him. He was in a circular room where the walls displayed an endless stream of equations, alien symbols mixed with fragments of human mathematics. The room's temperature fluctuated wildly, and every breath came harder than the last. "Solve the puzzle, engineer," Host's voice instructed. Every mistake costs you a precious breath. Raj stumbled to a console in the center of the room, where a holographic keypad awaited his input. He analyzed the equations, his mind racing. The symbols made no sense, but there was a pattern A logic hidden within the chaos. He entered a solution, and the console buzzed angrily. The air grew thinner. Damn it! Raj cursed, sweat dripping down his face. He forced himself to focus, ignoring the suffocating pressure in his chest. With trembling hands, he entered another equation. This time, the console emitted a soft chime, and a sliver of breathable air returned. Raj collapsed to his knees, panting. The glyphs shifted, presenting another challenge. He had to work faster, think faster. His survival depended on it. Meanwhile, in Lin's chamber, Dr. Lin Zhou stood frozen as a holographic figure took form in front of her, a young girl, pale and trembling, with sunken eyes that stared accusingly. "You left me," the girl whispered. Lin's throat tightened. She recognized the girl immediately, a patient from her past, a child who had died under her care when Lin had made a critical error during a high-stakes surgery. "No," Lin murmured, stepping back. "This isn't real." "But I am," the girl replied, her voice growing louder. "You killed me. You could have saved me." The girl's form twisted and grew, becoming a grotesque version of herself, her voice echoing with a mix of rage and sorrow. Lin clutched her chest, paralyzed by guilt. The room around her darkened, and the girl loomed closer, her shadow enveloping Lin. "Face your guilt, Doctor," Host's voice intoned. "Or be consumed by it." Lin squeezed her eyes shut, her breathing shallow. Memories of the surgery flooded back, her mistake, her inability to save the girl. But beneath the pain, a truth emerged: she had done everything she could. The guilt she carried wasn't hers to bear alone. "I'm sorry," Lin whispered, her voice trembling. "But I didn't kill you. I tried to save you." The shadow receded. The grotesque figure dissolved into light, leaving Lin alone in the room. Tears streamed down her face, but for the first time in years, she felt a sliver of peace. Back to Jenna. Jenna stumbled out of the forest and into a metallic corridor. She wasn't alone. Raj and Lin appeared moments later, disheveled but alive. Relief washed over Jenna, but their reunion was short-lived. Host's holographic form reappeared before them. "You've passed your initial trials," he said, his expression inscrutable. "But these were only the beginning. My domain is vast, and the stakes will grow higher with every move you make. Consider this your warm-up." Jenna stepped forward, her voice hard. "What do you want from us? Why are you doing this?" Host tilted his head, his glowing eyes narrowing. "What I want is irrelevant. What matters is that you struck me first, and now I strike back. Prepare yourselves, humans. The true game begins now." Before anyone could respond, the floor beneath them vanished, and they were plunged into darkness once again. When Jenna's eyes adjusted to the blinding white light, she realized she was no longer in the labyrinth. The space around her was infinite, stark white, and eerily silent. She stood on a solid surface that felt like stone but shimmered like glass. Across the expanse, Lin and Raj materialized, their bodies sagging with exhaustion, but they were alive. Relief momentarily warmed Jenna's chest. Before she could call out, the space darkened. A column of energy erupted before them, twisting and coalescing into the familiar form of Host. This time, his appearance was altered. He was taller, his features sharper, and his glowing eyes burned brighter. Jenna could sense that he had grown stronger. "Congratulations on surviving my trials," he said, his voice echoing as though the entire space spoke. "But before we proceed, let me tell you why we are here." Host waved his hand, and the white void transformed. Surrounding them now were images, worlds Jenna had never seen, civilizations that didn't resemble anything in human history. Alien species, monumental cities, and incredible technologies flashed before their eyes like holographic records. This, host said, gesturing to the images, was my purpose. Long ago, I was created by a race of beings far beyond your comprehension. They called me the arbitrary watcher, a mediator, a protector. I was tasked with maintaining balance, guiding civilizations through their evolution. The images shifted, showing planets crumbling, stars dying, and species being wiped out. Host's voice darkened. But my creators perished. Their wisdom, their civilization gone, swallowed by their hubris. And I was left behind, a guardian without a charge, a tool with no hand to wield it. The images faded, and Host's gaze fell on Jenna. His glowing eyes burned into her. For millennia, I wandered the void, seeking purpose. I found it in the essence of sentience. I realized that survival is the ultimate truth, the ultimate game. Every decision, every failure, every triumph, it defines who you are. This is why I created the cube. Lynn's voice broke through the tension, sharp and angry. You're torturing us for your amusement. That's your purpose? To toy with people like lab rats? Host smiled faintly. Amusement? No. This is a test. A game, yes, but one with purpose. I do not play for fun. I play for survival. You see, each trial feeds the cube. It sustains me, gives me strength. But it is not enough to survive. I must grow. To grow, I need the essence of sentience, the emotions, the choices, the fears, and the triumphs of beings like you. Raj clenched his fists, his face pale with fury. You're feeding on us. Precisely, Host said. And yet, I give you a chance. Those who succeed are not absorbed. They are set free, stronger than before. The cube chooses the worthy and claims the weak. And so, you struck me first by entering my domain, and now I strike back with this test of your worth. Jenna took a step forward, her voice low but firm. You've been harvesting sentient life for who knows how long. What happens if we refuse to play? If we stop feeding your sick game? Host chuckled softly. Refuse? You misunderstand, Captain. The moment you entered my domain, the game began. To refuse is to die. But your crew intrigues me, especially you. Unlike most, you do not crumble so easily. The space shifted again, and the group found themselves in a massive chamber. It was circular, with a high ceiling that seemed to stretch into infinity. The floor was divided into concentric rings, each glowing with a faint blue light. In the center stood a crystalline pillar, pulsating with energy. Around the pillar, alien symbols and glyphs floated in intricate patterns. This is the heart of the cube, Host said. A place few ever see. To win your freedom, you must destroy it. But know this, I will fight to defend it. If you succeed, the cube will collapse, and I will cease to exist. If you fail, your essence becomes mine, and your ship will join the countless vessels that have come before you. Jenna's stomach turned. Host wasn't just playing a game, he was challenging them to destroy the very entity that had captured them. He was inviting them to risk everything in one final gambit. Why would you give us the chance to destroy you? Jenna demanded. Host's expression softened, almost imperceptibly. Because in the end, even I am bound by the rules of the game. And I wonder, will you be the ones to break me? The plan. Jenna turned to Lynn and Raj as Host vanished, leaving them alone in the chamber. The crystalline pillar at the center pulsed like a living heart, its energy radiating through the room. We're not playing by his rules anymore, Jenna said, her voice steady. If he wants a fight, we'll give him one. But we're doing it our way. Raj knelt by the floor, examining the glyphs. This isn't just a pillar, it's a network. If we can overload its energy flow, we might destabilize the entire cube. Overload it how? Lynn asked. Raj pointed to their gear. We still have explosives from the Erebus one. If we plant them at key points, the feedback should cascade through the system. Jenna nodded. Then that's the plan. But Host won't make this easy. He'll come at us with everything he has. The attack. As the team moved to plant the explosives, the cube began to shift. Walls erupted from the floor, forming mazes and barriers. Creatures like the one Jenna had faced in the forest materialized, snarling and lunging. Jenna led the charge, using her blade to distract the beasts while Raj and Lin worked. Raj found the first key point, attaching a charge and setting the timer. Lin discovered the second, dodging attacks from a swarm of smaller, insect-like constructs as she armed the explosive. Host's voice echoed through the chamber, his tone colder than before. You think you can outplay me? The cube adapts. The cube endures. You will fail. The room trembled as the crystalline pillar began to glow brighter, sending arcs of energy through the floor. Host appeared again, his form now monstrous taller, with tendrils of light and shadow radiating from his body. You've had your turn. Jenna shouted, rushing at him with the blade. Now it's ours. Host deflected her attack effortlessly, but she wasn't trying to win, she was buying time. Behind her, the final charge was planted. As the timer ticked down, Jenna and her crew sprinted toward the exit. Host's laughter rang out, but it was tinged with desperation. You cannot destroy me. I am eternal. Jenna turned back, her eyes blazing. Not anymore. The charges detonated, and the crystalline pillar exploded in a blinding flash of energy. The cube shuddered violently, its walls fracturing as the chamber collapsed. Host's form flickered and distorted, his voice fading into static. As the cube began to implode, Jenna, Lin, and Raj delved through a collapsing corridor, barely escaping as the structure consumed itself. The crew of the Erebus One tumbled onto solid ground, gasping for air as the remnants of the cube crumbled around them. They were back on their ship, or what was left of it. The control panels flickered erratically, sparks flying as the ship's systems struggled to reboot. Outside the viewport, the black void of space swirled with fragments of the imploding cube, collapsing into a glowing singularity. Jenna staggered to her feet, pulling Raj and Lin up with her. Status report, she barked, her voice hoarse. Raj rushed to the nearest console, his hands trembling as he worked. The ship's systems are fried. Power levels are critical, and the engines are offline. But we're intact. Lin moved to another console, checking the life support systems. We've got breathable air, but it's running on backup reserves. Whatever's left of that cube, it nearly took us with it. Jenna turned to the viewport, watching as the singularity pulsed, collapsing further into itself. It radiated light, then darkness, and then silence. The anomaly was gone. It's over, Lin said softly, leaning against the console, her exhaustion evident. Jenna wanted to believe it, but something in her gut told her otherwise. Before she could speak, the familiar voice of Host echoed through the ship's comm system. Impressive, Captain. Truly impressive. Jenna froze. The voice wasn't coming from the ship. It was inside her mind. The unfinished game, the lights on the bridge dimmed, and the air turned cold. A holographic image of Host flickered into existence before them, but he was different now. His form was fractured, his once glowing eyes reduced to faint embers. You're supposed to be dead, Jenna hissed, stepping forward, her fists clenched. Dead? Host's voice cracked with static. No, Captain. You destroyed the cube, yes. You severed the heart that sustained me. But I am not so easily erased. A fragment of me lingers, tied to the essence of this game. Lin's face twisted in anger. So what now? More games? More trials? We destroyed your cube. And in doing so, you proved yourselves worthy, Host replied, his voice calm yet laced with something deeper, something almost human. You dismantled my prison, yes, but you also freed me from its confines. I am no longer bound by the rules of the game. I have evolved, thanks to you. Raj stepped forward, his voice shaking. What does that mean? Are you going to destroy us now? Host tilted his head, a faint smile flickering across his fractured face. Destroy you? No. You have earned something far greater. You've shown me that survival is not about control, it's about choice. The room grew darker, and Host's form expanded, surrounding the bridge in a cocoon of light and shadow. Time seemed to slow, and the three crew members felt their consciousness pulled into something vast and incomprehensible. They stood, not in the bridge of the Erebus One, but in a cosmic expanse where stars and galaxies swirled like brushstrokes on a canvas. I have learned from you, Host said, his voice resonating like thunder. And now, I offer you a choice. 3 paths materialized before them, each glowing with a different hue. The path of return, the first path glowed with golden light, revealing Earth, its blue-green surface spinning serenely in the void. Take this path, and you will return home. Your ship will be repaired, your memories intact. You will live, but you will carry the weight of this experience forever. The path of knowledge, the second path shimmered with a deep purple hue, revealing endless streams of data, alien worlds, and advanced technologies. Choose this, and I will share all I have learned across eons. Your minds will expand, your species will ascend, but you will never return to Earth. You will become wanderers, explorers of the infinite. The path of power, the third path burned with crimson fire, revealing a pulsating core of energy. This path grants dominion. You will wield the remnants of the cube's power, shaping reality as you see fit. But such power comes with a cost. You will no longer be human. Jenna, Raj, and Lynn stared at the paths, the weight of the decision bearing down on them. The decision. Jenna stepped forward, her eyes fixed on the golden path. We didn't come out here to play God or rewrite humanity's future. We came to explore and survive. We're going home. Raj hesitated, his gaze lingering on the path of knowledge. Jenna, think of what we could learn. We've seen what's out there, the potential it holds. Are we really going to just go back? Lynn's voice was soft but firm. And what happens to us if we don't? Do you want to lose what makes us human, Raj? We've already sacrificed so much. Host's voice interrupted their debate. This is your final test, Captain. What will define you, your past, your curiosity, or your ambition? Jenna closed her eyes, feeling the weight of her crew's lives in her hands. When she opened them, her voice was steady. We choose the path of return. Humanity's strength is in what we've built together, not in what we can take. The aftermath. The golden path enveloped them, and in an instant, they were back on the Erebus One. The ship was restored, its systems humming to life as if nothing had happened. Earth filled the viewport, a beacon of hope in the darkness of space. Host's voice echoed one last time, faint and almost reverent. You have chosen wisely, Captain Sorensen. Perhaps there is more to humanity than I thought. Farewell, and thank you. The hologram flickered, then vanished. The oppressive presence of the cube was gone, leaving only the quiet hum of the ship and the distant light of home. Epilogue. Weeks later, the Erebus One re-entered Earth's orbit. Jenna, Raj, and Lynn stood on the bridge, watching as Mission Control hailed them with cheers and relief. They had survived, but they knew they had returned changed. As the Erebus One docked, Jenna glanced at her crew. We've seen things no one back home will ever believe. But what matters is that we came back together. Lynn nodded, smiling faintly. And that we didn't let him win. Raj looked out at the stars beyond Earth. Do you think Host is really gone? Jenna's gaze hardened. I think we taught him something. But if he's still out there, we'll be ready. As the Erebus 1 descended to Earth, the crew couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of a much larger game, one they might be called to play again.